Doghouse Racing League is proud to be sponsored by Shoney's. Shoney's is today's all-American kitchen, open daily for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Shoney's guests can count on quality, delicious food along with warm, friendly service. Stop by one of the West Virginia locations to try their freshly prepared legendary breakfast bars. And don't forget to take home a whole strawberry pie. Shoney's, delicious food and friendly service since 1947. Are you looking for sports merchandise for your favorite teams, apparel, jerseys, headwear, hard goods, and looking to be involved with NASCAR? Fanatics is your one-stop shop. Fanatics is partnered up with all major professional sports leagues, as well as hundreds of collegiates and pro teams. Join them now at Fanatics. And if you use the link down below in the description, you'll be able to help out the Doghouse Racing League. While using that link, all commissions go to the Doghouse Racing League, which helps fund prizes and goods for the drivers out on track. Thank you so much for Fanatics, and enjoy the show! Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting on your Thursday night. Tonight, we give you the coverage of the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series for your 2024 Season 2. Tonight, we find ourselves in the 9th round of 14 races this season, and the drivers are back to a comfortable racetrack as they get to take their skills out to Kansas as the lights are starting to click on, the sun's starting to dip, and it's time for us to get prepared for this evening's race of the Shoney's 180 this evening. Should be a good one, coming off of a short track race as the drivers were just at Richmond. Sadly, we were not able to give you that full coverage of the Richmond race, but that race last week had 9 cautions in total, but it was Brandon Bowie who took the ultimate win over Jamie Horn and Brandon Six, who looked like the dominant drivers of the evening, but a late surge by a wounded vehicle found his way into victory lane. And for Brandon Bowie, that's going to be his first win of the season, and we'll see how he can continue on that momentum into tonight as the drivers, like I said, come to a little bit more of a comfortable zone at a 1.5-mile cookie cutter course. Kansas Speedway should be a good one, and we're excited to give you all the coverage here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. Usually we have Zach Hall in the booth with us, but he was not able to show up here tonight. Instead, taking his stand for this evening is going to be Danny Cochran. And Danny, we're happy to have you on board for this evening's race. Thanks for joining us for some Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series action.
Yeah, happy to be here. I think we're going to have a great show tonight. I've been watching these guys in practice, and one thing that's really refreshing to see is some awesome clean racing. These guys really seem like they want to keep their race cars under them and not tear anything up too awful bad here.
I think clean is the perfect way to phrase it. This track in the past has been ran 4 times, and clean is perfect for some of the races they've ran. 2 out of the 4 past races, there have been 0 cautions thrown. Then there's been 1 race with 1 caution the last time they were here earlier this year for 2024 Season 1. They did have 4 cautions during that race, but I mean, Danny, low caution count means there's a lot of strategy out there for some racing action this evening.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, strategy always plays a factor, but when you're running long green flag runs, and you have to think about when to execute on pit road, and just all the factors that play along with that, I think it's going to be very important here for these guys to make the right call and put themselves in the best position possible going forward.
As some of our favorites throughout this season, we've seen them be very strong. Brandon Six, Brandon Bowie, Brian Dixon, who are the top drivers from the Bowie Esports team, who are all inside of our top 5 in points. It's Brandon Six who's top of the point standings, and he looks to be the favorite here this evening when you look at just the way the season's been. But if you look at how the practice standings have been so far this evening, he's stuck right dab in the middle. Currently 13th on the board is Brandon Six. The drivers on top of it, we got some fans in the chat are going to like this noise. It's actually the 12 machine of Andrew St. Cour that's going to be top of the board this evening, a 2-time winner of this racetrack in the past. He won it back in the 2023 Season 2 and Season 3 season He's open for a third-time victory at Kansas. Currently top of the board with Mike Leftwich, second fastest, and Adam Thompson, who's been a top 5, top 10 racer this season. He currently is third fastest in practice. But these drivers are coming to the close of practice, about to be entering qualifying. And Danny, I'm curious on your thoughts on it. Qualifying, what is the importance for coming to a track like Kansas in this next-gen vehicle?
Well, it depends mainly on who you are. If you're Brandon Six, you can afford to give up a little bit. Oh, man, that was a hit. You can afford to give up a little bit in qualifying, not overstep, because you've got a 128-point deficit back behind you. So you can afford to start mid-pack. You don't want to get too comfortable, obviously. But, if you're one of these guys who's kind of a little bit further back, you're Justin McMahon, Eric Warman, those guys, you want to have a stronger run here to start out. That way you can start to nip away at that deficit a little bit and try and make a run toward this championship by the end of the season.
Absolutely. You named him Eric Warman, a driver that actually had a really poor performance last week in Richmond. Caught up with early troubles, had to have an early exit in the first 50 laps of that Richmond race here tonight. Wanting to get on the right level of speed. Currently is 25th fastest. He needs a lot of pickup once we get to qualifying, which we are entering now. Practice is just completed, and it's time to see these drivers stepping away from having the draft help. It's themselves on their own, alone qualifying for 2 laps, just 5 minutes to do so. And this is the fun part. Some drivers have the tactic of taking off immediately. Others like to stay patient, wait until the very last moment, see if this track can cool off just a little bit more, get that little bit of a small advantage over the rest of the field. As it looks like we're going to be seeing drivers taking off of going to be Steven Bonomo as well as Chris Leftwich. One of the first drivers to take off, you see on screen, it's Cameron King. One of the drivers that's been trying to find some consistency this season. He's been really up and down. Great speed usually early on in races, but it's been the finishing factor that's been tough on this 92 team. We'll see if Cameron King's got the speed to qualify inside of our top 10 as he starts. Lap number 1 goes low. It looks like he is already preparing to just get a fast lap for this first lap around.
Yeah, one cool thing about Kansas is that the transition on that front stretch is so smooth that you can go down there on that apron and it won't hurt you at all. Other places like the new configuration of Atlanta, if you try and cut off the tri-oval or rather quad oval, you can hit those bumps and it can actually slow you down. But with the transition being so smooth here, Sam, these drivers can actually lean on that a little bit. They can use that to get a little bit more time on their laps and maybe find a little bit more speed that way.
As Cameron King crosses the line, we'll see what the 92's pace is going to be right off the start. Looks to be a 30.461, already going to be taken away by Christopher Simon. And watch out for this sticker board. It's going to be shifting quite a bit, as it's going to be Christopher Leftwich, top of the board for himself for the 8 machine, but it's going to be his dad, Mike Leftwich, who was part of the top 3 fastest drivers in practice. He's now top of the board on the first lap go-arounds. But here was the fastest driver from practice. It's the 12 machine, Andrew St. Cour, second in the championship last season. Hasn't had the same speed this go-around. We'll see if he can find any great pickup here as qualifying begins. One driver we thought maybe would have a chance to go for a quick time. Looks like Christopher Leftwich, exit of 4, spun out into the grass. His second lap invalidated. So Christopher Simon, he'll have the top spot currently.
Yeah, that's going to be a big blow on his qualifying time. I mean, your second lap is usually your fast lap, and that's the one you really want to make count. So I don't know if he just overstepped trying to get a little bit too much out of it there, but that's gonna put him in a rough spot coming to the start of this race. He's going to have to battle through a lot of traffic.
This season, we've seen a lot of different drivers try to take the pole position. Currently, the one that's got 2 is Brandon Six. Everyone else that we've seen get a pole position, Jamie Horn, Shane Parrish, Gary Clune, as well as Jonathan Smith, St. Cour, and Jonathan Jennings have found themselves on the top of the pole award winner list. And some drivers are hoping to find just that little bit of extra speed for themselves. Here's Brian Dixon, part of the Bowie Esports team, as Andrew St. Cour is now going to be top of the board by 1/10 over Simon. Found some wicked speed was the 12 machine, but here goes the 03 of Brian Dixon. He gets close to that outside wall, living on the edge, but he goes right back down to the apron, the 03, as he was 17th on the board on the first lap. Second lap, only up to 16th. There was 0 pickup really there for Dixon. Shocking pace to see from Bowie Esports. We'll see what their race pace is going to show, but it looks like Andrew St. Cour, the favorite to take the pole time. as Joe McKnight, first lap invalidated, his second lap as he just crosses it now, hoping for a little bit of a pickup. It looks like that second lap as well, not as quick as he was hoping for. It's going to be 14th fastest as Nicholas Chanel going to be up to 11th place. Here's the last driver with a chance for qualifying time. It's going to be the 22 of Jeremiah Stutzman in that Shell's Pennzoil machine. And Stutzman, one of the drivers that's, again, very inconsistent on where he'll be on pace. At moments, he's got race pace that can compete up front in the lead. Other times, struggles in the back with qualifying. We'll see if he's got some good speed here for qualifying at Kansas, as he might only have one lap to put down. And Danny, that's a tough spot to be when you know you're going to be on the edge of getting one lap, potentially two, if you can finish this lap in time.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's only going to be one here. You want to have about 30 seconds to make your lap count. Yeah, you know, I liked his idea. I like what he's doing of trying to wait till the end of practice, till the end of the qualifying session. Oh, and he got the wall right there. That's going to hurt as well. But I liked his idea. Try and let that track get a little bit cooler, but it looks like it's actually going to come back to bite him here, as he might not even get to have a valid lap time put down. I think it's actually going to disallow that first lap, and he'll be starting, as they call it, shotgun on the field from this one.
As drivers, if they're going to be having a valid lap, they must not hit the wall, go into the grass, or have a drifting motion that has a burnout. Those are ways to invalidate your lap time. After hitting the wall, Jeremiah Stutzman will have to start in the back. Two other drivers also didn't get a time in. Brandon Bowie and Andy Cork will be joining Stutzman as we now enter into our 5-minute warm-up period. This is our time to take a look at our standings, also the schedule, and as well give a thanks to our sponsors. We're going to start things off with taking a look at the point standings entering tonight. It's Brandon 6 top of the board. It got shrunk just a little bit on that gap of the lead, with seeing Brandon Bowie take himself with a win last week at Richmond. Wasn't a big gain, but it was a small one. Still, that gap, 128 points. Might look massive if you look at it compared to other leagues that we call, but this is using the old Winston Cup Series point standings, where you could gain over 80, 100 points on your competition if one driver has a bad day and the other one wins out. So that points gap might look massive to some, but it's actually quite still workable here with 6 races left in the season, counting tonight.
Yeah, and the biggest way to chip away at a point deficit like that, I mean, you can have big swings, but you just got to be consistent. You know, let's say hypothetically, you know, Brandon 6 and Brandon Bowie, they both have decent nights. They both have top 10 runs. But you're Jamie Horn, you know, you're 194 points back from the lead, 66 points back to Brandon Bowie. You know, if you can just put that thing in the top 3 and you're having a good night, you get some bonus points, you get some, you know, lap sled, something like that, you can still come away with a really good margin. You know, you can gain quite a bit on those guys ahead of you that way.
You certainly can, and one of those seasons where we've seen a lot of ups and downs on everyone behind Brandon 6. Who started the season off so strong. And let's take a look on how the strength of the season's been for that 06 team. Started off the season with 2 wins, went back-to-back at Indianapolis and Nashville Super Speedway. Then we got to see a little bit of diversity as our 2 non-Bowie Esports drivers got to victory lane in Pocono and Rockingham with Shane Parrish and Justin McMahon. And then it's been Bowie Esports the last 4 weeks, with Brian Dixon getting a win at Indianapolis. And then it's been Brandon 6 and Brandon Bowie winning the last 3 races. But like I said, we have 6 races left. We're technically in the second half of the season. We have here tonight heading to Kansas, Charlotte, Roval, Talladega, Las Vegas, Phoenix, and then we finish off the season at Homestead, as we also have ourselves a couple of breaks in between these races, as we have tonight, next week, and we have ourselves a Thanksgiving break, and then we have another 2 races before our holiday break, which is going to be almost a full month where we'll be away before we finish out the season in January, where we'll have that Phoenix and Miami race. So plenty of racing action, but Danny, I mean, a variety of tracks that we still have left on the schedule.
Yeah, you know, it's I really like their schedule. It's very diverse. You get to see it put a lot of different drivers to the test. I mean, you know, you get to go from somewhere like Phoenix Raceway. It's very flat, very technical. And then you know, you parlay that with somewhere like the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval, where, you know, it's very, very difficult to navigate. It's definitely takes a couple different skill sets to make both of those work. So seeing those guys, you know, whoever's going to be best at those 2 different tracks and just the different tracks on our schedule, I think it'll, especially with this points format, forms a truly deserving champion.
It certainly does. Well, for us, we also have to say thank you to the sponsors that allow the Doghouse Cup Series and the Doghouse Leagues in general to be running throughout the week. As we have to first say thank you to the title sponsor and race sponsor for tonight, Shoney's. Shoney's is a great place to go if you're in the West Virginia location. If you're looking for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, they've got service for you. But if you find yourself near a Shoney's in the morning time, well, you got to go check out their legendary breakfast bar. And also, while you're eating there, don't forget to take a whole strawberry pie with you or any of their other delicious desserts that you can take home. Shoney's, delicious food and friendly service since 1947. We also want to say thank you to True Patriot Apparel and Gifts. They love to be helping you out. Designs to show off your personality. Excuse me, got a little tongue-tied there. Whether it is with a little bit of humor or sarcasm, check out their t-shirts, mugs, also going to be tumblers, stickers, hats, and more at TruePatriotShopUSA.com, as they've got yourselves plenty of different goods. And if you want to help support them, remember to also use the promo code Doghouse10. That's Doghouse with the number 10 at the end for 10% off. True Patriot Apparel and Gifts. It's a small business that believes in God, standing on our standing with our flag, as well as abiding by the U.S. Constitution. We advocate for freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom to bear arms. True Patriot Apparel and Gifts. Thank you so much for sponsoring and helping out the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series. We also want to say thank you to SSR Designs. If you're looking for any racing schemes out there, go on to Facebook and look up SSR Designs. They've got bold looks to help you out, as well as classic designs to make you look good out on track. SSR Designs, for the look that truly is your own. Also want to say thank you to Butt Kicker. Feel what you've been missing, as well to Nap Daddy Designs. If you're looking for other great content in iRacing schemes, go on to Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube for their latest releases. Go to napdaddyracing.com for more information. Thank you again to all the amazing sponsors, as it is time for us to get ready for some racing action for the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series. Here will be your starting grid for tonight. It is a total of over 20 drivers racing this evening, and top of the board for the second time this season, it's the 12 of Andrew St. Coeur. Second to his outside, going to be in the 27 machine, it's Christopher Simon, one of his best starts of the season in the 45. Gary Clune starts third. Jamie Horn going to be starting in fourth place, with Adam Thompson in fifth position. Tyler Millette will be taking on the sixth place spot for himself in the 24 machine, still with a chance for the championship. In seventh place, it's the 24 of Justin McMahon. Starting in eighth, going to be the 60 of Mike Leftwich, with Sun right behind. In ninth, it's Chris Leftwich. Then finishing off our top 10, we find the 23 of Jonathan Smith. Then in
I'm sorry. Back to P11, we've got Nicholas Shell, followed by Brandon Six, and P12 starting a little bit deeper tonight. I think it's going to be a little bit of a fun race for him, working his way up through the pack. Going back to P13, we have Cameron King, then we have Joe McKnight in 14th, the number 51. Gary Armillo in the number 7 car starting 15th, and then we have Tony Martin starting 16th. P17, we have Eric Anderson, followed by Brian Dixon in the number 03 starting P18. P19 tonight, we have Stephen Bonomo in the number 9, and followed by Daniel Wilkerson in the 28.
And then in 21st, we find Eric Warman, hoping for a better launch than he did last week, to his behind. In the 22nd position, it's the 19 of Nicholas Atwood. Bill Gentry will be starting in 23rd in the 4 machine, with Mark Dumont in 24th in the 14. Brandon Bowie always loves to start in the back. We'll see how he marches all the way up to the front after coming off his win last week at Richmond. That 54 starts in 25th. Jeremiah Stutzman finishes off our 26 top drivers, and starting shotgun in the 41 machine, it's Andy Cork, who's got a long distance to go. Did not put a time in. Our bottom 3 were not able to do so. But 27 drivers taking the grid, 27 drivers out on track for 120 laps this evening. Again, as we've seen throughout this season, the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series, there are no stage breaks, no fast repairs, but they will have 3 extra sets of tires in pit road to utilize for themselves. We also will be running with 70% fuel loads. The drivers pitting a little bit sooner than some of our other leagues that we cover. We'll see how that might influence our 120 laps this evening. Again, thank you to everyone that's joining with us here this evening on your Thursday night. We appreciate those that are supporting the drivers, supporting us up at the booth. We are excited to give you racing action here this evening. Pace car pulls off into pit road. Race number 9, the Shoney's 180 at Kansas is underway. It's Simon, it's Core as we roar down into turn number 1. Danny, here we go. It's race time here at Kansas.
Yeah, we already have a good show on our hands. Double file all throughout the pack. These guys sort through turns 1 and 2. We've got Andrew St. Clair already with a good little lead here. He's about 3/10 ahead of P2. That is Jamie Horn, and then they're a hornet's nest behind there.
Where do you find the spot to find your way to move forward? It's going to be the question of the evening. Also, where do you want to be in the early going of this run? Protect your tires or take track position. And the top 3 are saving tires the best that they can, staying low. Seeing a couple of drivers staying still high as up front. Andrew St. Clair leading this pack, and so needed for a driver that's really not had the season he was hoping for. He's had a lot of bad luck, but this is the best start he's had for a majority of this season. And we love to see drivers having the recovery runs, but also love seeing drivers that haven't been up front a lot racing with one another. Father and son duo going to be side by side off the exit of turn 4 in the 8 and the 60. It's Chris Leftwich, Mike Leftwich trying to find a way to go forward, but they've got to be careful because Brandon 6 in the 06 trying to find his spacing as well to move forward for himself. But everyone up front already single filed out. It's Mike Leftwich still stuck on the outside, and he's not moving forward. He's actually going backwards for the 60 machine.
Yeah, you know, and if you're Brandon 6, you're mired in traffic there. You got to be working not super fast because you don't have that chip on your shoulder of, you know, being in a big deficit. But you gotta be thinking about how those tires are going to fall away, and then you're going to be stuck back there. And the more time that goes on, Sam, it gets harder and harder to move up in track position. If you're mired back in, you know, the hard racing that you get to see from about 10th on back, it gets significantly more difficult to go forward. So I think he's going to be looking for any opportunity he can to pick up some spots here early. And he's taken advantage so far. He's up at least 1 position from where he started at. So I think it's going to be fun watching him work his way up through this pack.
Also, how is Brandon 6 going to retaliate after coming off a dominant run at Richmond, but not taking the win? Led 113 laps of the 185 last week, and 180 last week. It just was not enough for the 06 machine to grab his 5th win of the season. Instead, had to watch his teammate take the glory. So now he sliders back in this position, settling in. Is this 06 machine just watching the top 12 ahead and taking things a little bit on the patient approach, which I think isn't the worst call, especially with how this next gen kind of ebbs and flows at mile and a half. This is honestly, I prefer what we're seeing from some of the drivers in the middle of the pack. They're just taking it easy, let everyone else race around them.
Yeah, and you know, that is a good approach. It's just the issue with that is you're so far back, it's hard to get it back, as we see 03 making a move on the 92 there, looking to advance, but he kind of tried to shut the door on him there. And that's just the hard racing you get to see with these next gen cars. I mean, aero is so important. You got to try and cover off any advance you can, you know. So I think these guys have been racing, you know, done a fantastic job being as clean as they possibly can, but it's you also got to manage that with being aggressive too. I mean, you can't just let these guys walk all over you, because they will take advantage of it if you do race too nice, you could say.
That is certainly very true, as Tony Martin in the 2 machine will stay high. Brian Dixon trying to find a way to get through, as well as Eric Anderson, the 43 behind, finding any way to follow the faster lane to go forward. As this run is, and seeing some of these drivers further on back are racing back and forth, also up front, they aren't taking it easy against one another. It's 5th all the way back to around 11th position. They have been just on top of one another in this lead pack. It's our top, I would say, 4. They're trying to find a way to pull away from the rest of the field, but it's looking impossible. No one able to just gap themselves. The draft really keeping these packs together.
Yeah, and that's one thing you see out of this next-gen package a lot. Any of the current NASCAR Oval packages is that this draft will keep everybody in play, and everybody's a factor, at least for the first several laps, you know. you get into a run about 25, 30 laps, you can start to see some separation. But at this point, you can see guys, especially here at Kansas, they can work multiple lines and they can, do different things to manipulate their lines to be able to race one another very, very hard. And I think we're seeing everybody kind of take advantage of that right now. As on back there, we have, I believe that is the 24 working that outer groove of Justin McMahon, trying to find some track position early in the going here.
Trying to find some track position. A couple of drivers have found a little bit of a scrape off the exit of turn 4. I've seen that a couple of times, almost every lap. There's at least 1 to maybe 5 drivers scraping that wall. We'll see how that changes as this run continues on. 10 laps in, and it is still Andrew St. Cyr up front. But we're seeing some new names that are in this top position that have struggled throughout this season. I know, Danny, I was trying to give you kind of a briefing of what we've seen this season for the Shoney's drivers, and one of them that I noted on was Gary Kloon, who runs 3rd currently. He's a driver that is really struggling for himself to find a footing of what competition or what speed he was going to have all season long. And the 45 currently runs 3rd. This is a fabulous launch for himself. Also for the 8 machine of Chris Leftwich running in 5th place. This has been a track for Chris Leftwich that he's found a lot of great quality, promising runs in the past. He's gotten the pole here 2 times back in the inaugural time that they raced here back in the 2022 season 2, and as well last time they ran here last season. So the 8 machine proving that this is a track that he's had success and continuing to show success as the outside row seems to be finding some sneaky speed and are moving forward.
Yeah, I think you're going to see guys start to move up to that outer groove a lot as this run goes on. Parlaying, just Kansas, the outer groove is dominant in the long run, but parlaying that with the lighter fuel load, I think you're going to see guys moving up there and making more speed. I know the 24 was the first to do it, and you've seen some others start to kind of pick up on that. So I think as this run goes on, you're going to see a lot of guys start to kind of navigate up to that top line. And then passing is going to get significantly more difficult from there. You're going to see guys starting to throw more slide jobs and just being aggressive on entry to try and get that upper groove and trying to, set up passes that way as opposed to just kind of running the bottom and trying to slowly work guys over.
And one driver, you noted on the 24, first to attempt the outside. Well, I think he got a little bit too much of the outside. Scraped the wall, and he's dropped now back to the white line, trying to find a refooting, currently 9th place. Seeing the 71, that's going to be Adam Thompson on his rookie campaign this season. He's been having some great speed up front. He's been inside of our top 5, top 10, I feel like every race, kind of under the radar, challenging just to stay in that top 5 window. For every race we've been in, it's a winning pace that he's kind of not shown. It's kind of needing a little bit more maybe strategy adjustments to have a chance to go run after these Bowie esports. And tonight seems to be Twisted Axle of Andrew St. Cyr, as well as seeing Jamie Horn in the 98, both outperforming way more than I was expecting in the early goings of this race. But who else will be competing with them? We'll have to continue to watch and see, as Christopher Simon, being that 5th place driver, is running well. Also want to give a huge kudos to the return of Daniel Wilkerson. I know he's been dealing with some personal reasons on having to step away from racing. But the 28 machine fell all the way back to last place. He's now on the charge, recovering to go get some of these spots back. He qualified 20th, back to 25th place, but he's got a group of drivers that I think that's 28 if he can find the right spacing. Could take some of these spots away. If he also can attach with the 22 of Jeremiah Stutzman, Brandon Bowie, that's a strong duo that usually find themselves up instead of the top 10 in the next 50 to 60 laps once this race continues to stay green. And staying green, like I said at the top of the broadcast, has been a usual thing. Danny, I'm curious on your thoughts. When you're going into a race where a league prides themselves on green flag racing, and they've shown that these races can't stay green, how do you think a driver's mentality is trying to set up for these races?
Yeah, as a driver, I think the biggest thing you got to focus on there is patience. If you go into a race and you're kind of thinking, all right, well, we're just going to tear it up, you kind of want to, a lot of times you know who to look for, and you know the guys you want to get away from. And a lot of times you'll find those guys kind of in the mid-pack range. But when you get into a league that's, they pride themselves on running clean, they have very good races, and you can kind of pace yourself a little bit more and think, all right, I got time. We're going to be green for a little bit, most likely, so I can kind of work my way up through this pack without too much trouble. And, you can just kind of go off of that and say, there's no reason to drive over my head right now. It's going to come to me. We just got to let the race play out for a little bit.
It certainly has already played out for a few drivers. As I noted on, Brandon Bowie and Jeremiah Stutzman going to be the two that are going to be trying to move forward as quickly as possible, both up 5 positions, tied with Nicholas Atwood in 17th place as the biggest movers, but up front, not a major amount of shifting in position. It's been a lot more of how do you find a place to go forward, as it's going to be the 58 of Shell getting into the outside wall in that pink, black and white machine. Hard to see the number on the side, but certainly a very different scheme, as they're going to be 3 wide for a quick moment. It looks like Brandon 6 made the call. It's go time for our championship leader at this moment, as a beautiful 3 wide pass now up to 9th place, and it looks like the 06 has called it. It's time to go, as he is now making the call to make the surge to the front.
Yeah, and I think one thing we might be seeing is his setup just coming to him a little bit more in that long run, as we're seeing these guys get a little squirrely off the corner, and I think that kind of plays into what I was about to say about Brandon 6 there. You know, his long run setup's kind of coming into play, and these guys, their tires are starting to go, so he's kind of smelling blood in the water, and he's getting to take advantage of that and start moving forward. But you know, as this run goes on, I think you'll see the guys who are fast in the long run just continue to get better and be faster, such as Brandon 6 and you know, Brandon Bowie and Stutzman as well.
Drivers continue to make their way forward. The question now looms in that group that we have our shot on: who is going to be the first to make the mistake of getting into the outside wall, or who's going to be the first to really make the surge into pit road? Again, the drivers have a 70% fuel load, so they're going to be around that 40 to 45 window on pit stops. We'll see who's going to be the first to jump into pit road, and when they decide to, when they take 4 tires and fuel, who's going to have the cleaner stop, who's going to be able to take advantage of tires, because right now our leaders already about a half a second slower 20 laps into this run than their fastest laps that they ran. So there's a slight drop off compared to our leaders, but everyone else further behind, there's a much bigger fall off on pace. Some of the drivers around our middle of the pack are about a second off of some of their fastest laps already into this run, 20 laps in.
Yeah, and I think if it keeps going at the rate it has been, I wouldn't rule out some lap traffic by the time we get to this first pit stop. You know, if they continue to fall off and these guys up front don't really fall off, I think lap traffic could play a factor by around the time we get to the lap 45, lap 50 mark potentially.
Talked about go time. Brandon 6 was just in 12th place. He is now up to 6th place for the 06, as he is now gotten by Jonathan Smith. Last lap ran a 30.9 second lap time. Our leader ran a 31.0. The other fast driver that's on track currently is Jamie Horn, who's in 2nd place. And I think for Brandon 6, big thing that made him have to take off and go now is the fact that our top 2 have built up such a gap. They are 2 seconds ahead from where 2nd place is back to 3rd. So for 6, if he wants to be a competing for this win, he needs to close this gap just a little bit before pit stops happen.
Yeah, you definitely want to put yourself within striking distance. I mean, you can't afford to lose too much. Like for Brandon 6, you want to be able to get a little bit of a sniff of that draft off those 2 lead cars. It may not seem like it makes a huge difference to be 1.3 seconds back versus like 1.6 seconds back, but it does make a big difference. That's the difference of getting a little bit of a tow versus having none at all. So I think it's very important for him to work past these, as he got one of them right there in that corner. That was the 45 of Gary Clune. I think it's very important for him to try and pick up and put down the 71 of Adam Thompson as fast as he can, to maybe start nipping away at that lead and kind of have that draft by the time they start to hit pit road.
As Thompson going to be the driver in 3rd position. You see there the 71 goes a little bit high. Where will we see Bowie go? I mean, for 6 go, the Bowie Esports driver, he goes low and just able to carry so much more speed than everyone else. Even 27 laps into this run, just looks a lot smoother on the pace. As Brandon 6, it just takes 1 lap to dispatch this 71 machine. We'll see if Thompson can rally back on the outside, and he will. Does not want to just relinquish this position, and that is a great defensive drive, but it's 71 of Thompson.
Yeah, and you know, he's even still, Brandon 6 is matching the lap times of the leaders side by side with the 71. If you're Adam Thompson, I don't think you want to give this spot away necessarily. You never want to give a spot away, but I would consider letting the 06 pass, because then you can kind of follow him toward the front. And it looks like what we're seeing 6 doing is maybe jumping up that outside. He's going to try and build a run off this corner, and maybe going to try and look low by the time they get to turn 1 here.
Try to find a little bit more of a straightaway, carry more speed, and you can see that closing rate down into turn number 1, pushing the 71 up to the outside. With the slide job move not fully clear, and Thompson holds steady once again, side by side in the outer lane off the exit of the corner. Will always have the advantage there, and Thompson defends another rallying attack, but 6, he'll go with the same attack mode, this time a lot more aggressive to the outside, trying to straighten up sooner. And here we go with another attempt for this position. Watch the closing rate by 6, and it's not as big as it was the last go around. I think Thompson perfectly able to hold back, and with all this bickering back and forth, they have lost a full second to our top 2. St. Croix, Horn, they are loving this battle back for 3rd place.
Yeah, and this battle's going to keep happening if the 06 can't get to the outside of Adam Thompson. You know, I think passing on the bottom at this point in the run is all but null. It's the outside is so dominant that it's going to be really hard to build a run and get around him on the inside. I think what Brandon 6 is going to have to do if he wants to get this spot is try and look for a way to get his nose in on the outside, maybe on corner entry. I think this might be his attempt at it right here, but I don't know if he's going to be able to get there by the time they come out of the corner.
As this grouping of drivers still go back and forth, a little bit more spaced out than some of the pack racing that's happening further on back. As trouble strikes the backstretch, it's Joe McKnight and also going to be Stutzman. Huge save by both drivers, but they both were sideways off a 2. Just looked like for Stutzman, got a little bit in the quarter panel of the 51, but it's all the drivers around 12th back to, I would say, 20th. We're on top of one another, giving more spacing, turning that big pack into now 2 little groupings. As you see the number 2 machine, Tony Martin, Eric Warman ahead of him, also Dixon. They're starting to now see the hard charging of Brandon Bowie, as well as the other hard charger of the race being Nicholas Atwood. Both have been moving forward efficiently. Atwood kind of stalled out. He was kind of being held up, and those tires are fading away as the 19 hits the wall. Bowie, though, that 54 is slowly creeping his way forward. Might need a caution to get into the fighting for a win conversation, but currently he's done a great job recovering from starting all the way back in 25th position.
Yeah, and I think that's a testament to, his patience, is just how he's been able to slowly work these guys over and just get them one at a time here as he goes to work on the 2 car. I believe he's going to get him this time, maybe. Looks like the 2 got in the wall a little bit, so he is going to clear for that position as he continues to make his march forward. Patience is a virtue here, especially in these long green flag races where it's going to be clean for a while. Patience is a virtue, and it might come back to bite him not going fast enough up through this pack, as we see Andrew St. Croix, continuing to lead this thing, and he's actually pulled out now to about a 2nd gap on P2. So I think he's looking like the man to beat right now, but kudos to the 54 of Brandon Bowie for being patient and working his way up into the top 10.
And for this 12 machine of Andrew St. Croix, this has been a pure recovery run after just bad luck this season. He's missed a race. He's also had a couple of races not go his way this season, where we thought maybe you would have a winning vehicle, and it's kind of been a whole team aspect. Last season, Twisted Axle, Kevin Thompson, Andrew St. Croix, they dominated this series with a little bit of seeing it. Michael Hayes kind of chirping every once in a while here or there. Also seeing Jonathan Jennings pop up last season, and we thought coming into this 2024 season 2, it was all Andrew St. Croix's chances for finally to hoist the championship in this Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series. It just wasn't the case. Had to miss a couple of races. When you miss one race, it kind of takes you out of championship. He's missed a couple this season, but this is a first time we've seen Twisted Axle look like the Twisted Axle of old that just was dominant up front. The old way they used to do it, Danny, was back off, save their tires, and just have the long run pace. Tonight, it was get track position and prove that you've got the short run speed and the long run speed, as we're seeing right now.
Yeah, and you mentioned him missing a couple races, kind of being out of his groove. Nothing fixes that better than a win for a driver, or even if not a win, just a dominant performance. And that's what we've seen in this first 37 laps of this race. Is it's been all Andrew St. Croix up front, and I think just being able to come out and make a statement as we have a car on the wall. That is the 27 of Christopher Simon, who he looked like he had a pretty good lift there, but able to keep things going. But for Andrew St. Cyr, you know, to be able to come out and just say, hey, I'm still here, you know, I'm still a factor in this series, even with missing a couple of races, I think making that statement is it's a big step in the right direction as a driver, as we've got a couple on pit road now, Sam.
Yeah, that's going to be Chris Leftwich as well as Jonathan Smith, both hitting pit road. They're going to be the first takers under this green flag stint. Bill Gentry did pit over 6 laps ago, but he had damage repair that he needed to get done. There's 4 tires and fuel for the 23 and the 8 machine. More drivers think about pit stops. Justin McMahon going to be the next driver in the line as he enters pit road. The 23 and as well the 8 take off, but for Chris Leftwich, inside of the top 10, and again, mishaps. Chris Leftwich overshoots his box, had to back up, losing over 3 seconds just because of that one issue. You hate to see that for a driver that was having one of his better performances of the season. And again, pit stops, they can make or break really a race so quickly.
Even more than that, they could make or break a season. You know, if they happen at the wrong time or the right time, depending on how you look at things. But yeah, you know, pit stops are, especially in a series that's as clean and green as this one is, you got to make the most of your time on pit road every single time. And with these next gen cars, if you don't have those brakes heated up, it's so easy to make that slight mistake of, you know, either missing your pit entry, speeding on pit road, or just sliding through your box. So you got to really be on point and be on top of things getting into pit road here.
Well, our first of our top 2 entering pit road, Jamie Horn going to be making a stop. Same for Cameron King, as they'll be joining Steven Manomo, who's in his box currently getting service done. Another big thing you got to be careful of is not being caught speeding. These drivers through the corner are falling to a slowest of 160 miles per hour, but when they get into pit road, they got to slow down to 45 miles per hour. And Danny, you kind of talked about the fact of the transition from the racetrack to the apron on the front stretch, but as we ride on here and get a sense of what it's like, I mean, getting onto pit road is not the easiest task in the world.
No, especially with these next gens, you don't have that solid rear axle, and it kind of makes things unstable for you as a driver. You know, you get on that flat surface.
Caution.
Oh, and we have a caution in the middle of pit cycles.
Right when drivers were getting service done, caution flag is out. Trying to figure out who exactly was the driver to bring out this yellow, but a caution coming out right in the middle of this cycle. The worst timing you could have asked for some, perfect for others. As again, we are searching for what exactly brought out this caution flag. But Danny, I mean, right in the middle of the pit cycle, it's the worst time to see a yellow flag come out.
And you would not believe it. Andrew St. Cyr was on pit road when that caution came out. Could not, well, I don't want to say it couldn't be worse, because if he doesn't go a lap down, this could actually play into his favor. But I don't know here, man. We'll wait to see how things play out. But it's kind of looking to me like he is going to get his lap back here.
And I found out what it was. It was Andrew Cork, as he was trying to go with an extreme safe way into pit road, spun out on pit entry, and it went all wrong for himself. That's what brings out this caution. You can see Cork kind of by himself, but as he was trying to go into pit road, he goes on the apron early, and as he was entering into the pit entry, just loops it around with the transition of the racetrack and also the on the bottom side on the apron. And it's so easy to do, because if you hit the wrong spot, it loops you around just like this.
Yeah, that's that's quite the ride there that he took. You know, and you hate being that guy. Being a driver, you never want to be the guy who brings out a yellow, but it happening that way is always pretty tough to swallow. So this is certainly going to make things interesting going forward. We're going to have everybody re-racked and close together once again. I think we'll see the 06 and Brandon 6 be a lot more aggressive on this initial start next time. Try not to let too much get away from him here. And yeah, it looks like for Cork, he just didn't. He either needed to be on the banking or on the flat to try and get the thing slowed down. Just, you know, trying to ride it that way makes it very unstable. So
it certainly does. As drivers are finishing up their pit cycle, we're in that weird limbo stage. Some drivers were on the lead lap, others were not, and some had to get the wave around for the lucky dog. And it looks like for Andrew St. Cyr, found himself being up front, and he just had gone into pit road to get service done as that caution flag came out. And for Brandon 6 as well as Core, they're going to be the two to watch out on who takes this top spot, because I believe for 6, he would love to take this lead position and not really have to, you didn't have to run down that gap. The caution was needed. It was helpful to have. And also with this caution, it brings up Brandon Bowie. Tyler Millett's now into this fight. Brian Dixon. It pushes back Jamie Horn, though. He'll be all the way down in 10th position on this launch. And as well, I believe that Horn got the lucky dog spot. He's going back into pit road to top off on fuel.
I like that call. I like the call to get a little bit more fuel in the tank, because they're not going to be able to make it from here running 70% fuel, but it's certainly going to make things interesting. Being able to get that extra 2 or 3 laps, you never know. That could come in handy. That could come in quite useful going on into this this second part of the race.
It certainly will, as certainly with a situation that could happen, and it will mess up some drivers' nights on how they thought this race was going to go, as drivers that are hoping to get the wave around going to be 13th on back. That's Adam Thompson, Gary Kloon, Jonathan Smith, Chris Leftwich, Justin McMahon, Cameron King, Eric Anderson, Gary Armio. All drivers going to be trying to take the wave around to get back onto the lead lap after they all decided to pit just early on the green flag pit cycle, and it backfires for themselves. Making an emergency stop, though. Going to top off with, coming up to the 1 to go, I believe, Brandon Bowie. Going to be going back to the end of the line after being rewarded with being up front with all those pit cycle issues for drivers. Curious on that decision of coming off and topping off from fuel. It does, like you said, give a little bit more of an option to work with on the fuel run and a little bit more security, but that track position really going to be lost by the 54.
Yeah, and that's something that, as he really had to weigh heavily on his mind, was sacrificing track position for a little bit more fuel. Again, I don't see him being able to make it all the way on fuel to the end of this thing. So I don't know. I wouldn't want to give up that that good track position that he had. But I tell you what, the big winner out of all this was Brandon 6. He touched on the losers. He touched on the guys who, unfortunately had to suffer for that caution. But Brandon 6 is in a prime position due to that yellow.
Exactly where he needs to be for this launch, and I say, why not give us a chance to hear the roar of these drivers, as we're going to take a Crank It Up segment as we get ready to go green. We got ourselves 46 laps in the books, still plenty of great racing action to go. As the base cars into pit road, we're into the restart zone, and we'll take you into a Crank It Up as Brandon 6 back to the point. Can the 4-time winner get his 5th? Let's find out as we crank it up here this evening. are back, ladies and gentlemen. As we got Crank It Up segment, got to see some drivers making some big passes, a little bit of wiggles here and there as Nicholas Atwood got out of shape for a quick moment. But up front, it is Brandon 6, Andrew St. Cyr going to be your top drivers currently. At 6, again, a great start for himself, but one of the drivers got to give huge kudos to was involved with an incident that didn't bring out a caution. It's Jeremiah Stutzman making the charge going forward, this 22, even with the mistake of getting into Joe McKnight, still showing some great speed as we ride on board with this 22. You can see the closing rate onto Eric Warman. 22's got some great run for himself. He's on some of the fresher tires of others, even with the damaged, wounded vehicle. We're doing a great job, Danny. This is great stuff by this 22 machine who now moves up to 5th place.
Yeah, he is up 21 positions from the drop of the green flag tonight. So I think he's definitely had a heck of a rebound compared to how his race started out. You know, he didn't get to set his qualifying laps. He got in that mix up early on, and now he's sitting in the top 5 with over half the race left in front of him. So I think if you're Jeremiah Stutzman, you're pretty happy with how things have kind of turned around for you here in the last few laps.
Absolutely, as we are 53 laps into this race, about to be concluding this 53rd lap. It is still Brandon 6 up front with Andrew St. Cyr second, but the driver that once was in second place, we find Jamie Horn currently trying to find a way to move forward. He's lost a spot since we've gone green, just stuck behind a wall of drivers, and there's no openings for this 98 machine, just showing how important track position can be. As Horn finally able to find a spot to slot in front of Christopher Simon, who also was inside of our top 5 before that caution flag and pit cycle started. Seeing this 98 able to get by Wilkerson as Daniel Wilkerson again. Great to see his return back out on track, running in 10th place. And as he's one of those drivers that is rewarded with the timing of the yellow, he's going to be seeing how much more ground he can hold off if possible. As we hop on board with Nicholas Atwood, probably had one of the stronger starts to this race. Originally was one of the biggest movers. He's now trying to find a way to reassert himself in 13th position. Here's another driver that we've seen run in many a different series that we've called. This is the 23 machine of Jonathan Smith, who is only back in 14th place, caught up in that early green flag pit stop cycle, couldn't get back on the lead lap. A tough call for the 23 machine, but interesting note, watching these gear ratios, Danny, you would think 5th gear would be utilized. I believe, seen on the screen squinting, he's staying in 4th gear all the way around.
Yeah, it looks like he is. That's kind of a more conventional setup compared to what you used to see when these cars had 4 gears compared to 5. But you know, I can't help but notice here, Sam. We touched on the 22 being the biggest mover of the night. He's about to take the lead up there.
Jeremiah Stutzman. I mean, he is flying right now. St. Cyr was able to make the pass by 6. Now it's Stutzman's turn to try to swap and take the top spot if possible, as Stutzman having a little bit of blinking issues there for a quick moment. But again, these drivers using an open setup, making adjustments throughout the night on top of dealing with damage that you might have accrued throughout the evening. And Jeremiah Stutzman, caution was needed. And even with being involved with an earlier incident that didn't bring out a yellow flag, this 22 has plenty of speed underneath them. And this is an incredible run for himself as Andrew St. Cyr in the 12 continues to lead. Happy to be back up front in clean air. This is where he was so dominant for most of the evening. But we have seen shifts going back and forth tonight here, Danny, with the way we were in practice, qualifying to race. The weather's changed quite a bit, but currently the weather's been something fun to watch on the back end, mainly because of the wind. It has been dramatically changing, anywhere from 6 miles per hour up to 12 miles per hour I've seen here this evening. But the track temp, cool, nice, perfect for some racing conditions.
Yeah, you know, there are certain aspects of the weather that you can account for in building a setup. Like, for example, this race, the sun was still up technically when the green flag came out, but it's kind of transitioned into this night race, and you can kind of expect that and account for that in building your setup. But you don't know what the wind's going to do. I mean, there's not a ton of things you can do to account for 7-8 mile per hour wind, which doesn't sound like a ton, but if in the right circumstances, it can be enough. If you have low side force and you're side by side with another car, it can be just enough to kind of tip the domino and make the thing, you know, kind of snap loose on you. But these guys, they've done a great job building these setups and kind of accounting for the change in weather going into this evening. I think that's one reason why we're starting to see some guys kind of ebb and flow with, you know, how they started off strong. Now they're not doing so hot even without the caution that came out, and some of them, their cars are kind of come to life compared to how they were. But if you're Andrew St. Cour, you've kind of got it. You've got it right for both right now. He's still holding the 2/10 lead, fighting off Jeremiah Stutzman, who's climbed up, and you know, I think he's done a fantastic job building the setup that works both in light and dark.
It certainly has been working for both conditions here tonight. Now here's a new contender that wants to fight for the lead spot. It's Tyler Millette in the 94 machine. Tyler, last season was our first time covering the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series, and we saw the 94 be extremely strong at the short run tracks. The short tracks is where the 94 was always a threat for a top 5 run. It was the mile and a half, the intermediate courses, the bigger tracks where it kind of was an unknown of what speed we were going to see. But Tyler has done a great job, qualified all the way back in 6th position. And now making the pass for second, it's Tyler Millette now in the charge to try to run down Andrew St. Cour, who has kind of turned into the final boss of this evening, who can get by the 12, which St. Cour ran very high that last time around. Looking for a big run, does not want anyone else to get close to that core panel.
Well, you know, I don't know if running the top, I don't know if it's come in yet, you know, but we've seen it so far through this race. As that run starts to go on, that top comes in stronger and stronger. So maybe he's thinking it's getting about time to move up, and that's where the speed's going to be. But it goes back to what I touched on a minute ago with the weather. We're starting to see some guys ebb and flow, some comers and goers. Tyler Millette's looking very strong here in the last few laps. He's up 4 positions from where he started in 6th. So I think we continue to see him be a factor in this, as we got 3 wide action going on behind these guys, Sam.
Drivers are giving up some pace, and that's going to be Jeremiah Stutzman that just backs out. I think he's realized, okay, I pushed, I could see how close I was to the lead, but now I need to save these tires just in case we go to a long run, because we still have another about 20 to 25 more laps to go before the next pit stop that some of this field is going to be thinking about making. But as we see some of the rest of the group, they're trying to find different areas where they can find speed. Is it the low side to continue to protect tires? Is it the high side and just say, let's go? And some other drivers that I've been noticing up front is, it looks like more issues striking the 41 machine of Cork as he has to go back into pit road, as he had a wild time into the grass after a simple just slip up off the exit of the corner of 4. Got completely body slammed here by the 4 of Bill Gentry. You'll see the 4 machine off the exit of turn 4 just slam the outside wall and come body slamming into the 41. And that's a tough situation. This is going to be the best view to see it, as the 4 machine on the outside of Bill Gentry just trying to run that outside groove, gets a little bit too much of the throttle, but then slams into the 41. And Cork, an innocent victim going around in his night, just goes from bad to worse.
Yeah, I mean, you really hate to see that for somebody, man. You know, their night's already been bad enough. They had the incident earlier on where they spun coming to pit road. And it just, that stuff compounds, man, and it can make your race not fun at all. It can definitely demoralize you as a driver a ton.
And what makes it even worse, Danny, require damage with that slam, most likely a broken toe length for the 41 machine. So he's going to have to even deal with the black flag of an unsafe pit entry on top of having to sit in pit road for required damage. It just, for Cork, you hate to see that. Again, did not qualify here tonight. It's had to start in the back, and it is not blossom into an evening that you're going to want to remember. But for the drivers up front, we're seeing some drivers have a good run, but they're wrecking further on back behind. It's the 8 machine and more off the exit of turn 2. Christopher Leftwich and a mully contact with Nicholas Shell coming in late as the 8 just continues to get pattered around, and our second caution of the day is out.
Yeah, I mentioned demoralizing a second ago. The only thing that might be demoralizing to me in 2 wrecks is spinning, thinking you're all right, and then just getting absolutely body slammed by somebody coming into it.
This is going to be a big one and a bad one to watch. First driver of note you got to watch out for, going to be ahead of the 8 machine, is Cameron King. King is going to get into the outside wall here, gets loose, comes back down in the 8, and Pulse is going to be seeing Leftwich with the wickedest spin that he goes around, then hit by Joe McKnight that forces the 8 up, lets the car roll, and Shell body slams again with another T-bone in the 8 machine. Just a lot of not good moments there that you hate to see happen. But here's a ride along with Chris Leftwich. If you've got motion sickness, you might want to look away as the 8 just goes for a ride here in this incident.
Man, oh man. You gotta hate it for the 8, man. Leftwich, he hit everything but the lottery there. I mean, that's tough. As a driver, that's hard to swallow. You know you're probably already done, but that's if there was ever like a reverse cherry on top, that's got to be it.
And here's the run along with Shell, who, again, I mean, I think for this 58, to give him a little bit of greases, expected the 8 to hold the brake, and there was going to be an opening there, but Leftwich just lets the brake go away, and 58 just nowhere to go for himself, as, again, thought the 8 was going to go low, but with that Joe McKnight hit, it bounced him back up on the track, and Shell just misjudged where the car was going to be, and his night as well will be ended. That is 3 drivers and 1 wreck, calling it a night. That's going to be Chris Leftwich, Cameron King, Nicholas Shell, all done, as well as Andy Cork and Bill Gentry. I mean, just in the mere 5 to 10 laps, we just lost a handful of drivers.
Yeah, I mean, you really hate to see that. It's a lot of good cars got taken out right there who were having solid nights, but I want to see who all comes to pit road here and who stays out. Looks like our top 2 are staying out, and we've got everybody behind them coming down pit road.
That is the call, as it will be Jamie Horn as well as Adam Thompson staying out on track. And it's going to be the likes of Jeremiah Stutzman going into pit road. I need to go check and confirm for the 22 if it was just fuel only or if he took 2 tires for himself. And I think it was fuel only for the 22 machine. So he's going to be on old tires as well for our top 3. It's Andrew St. Cyr, Brandon Six, Tyler Millette. 4 tires and fuel for 4th on back that just entered pit road.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if you're one of those guys who's running a little bit farther back, you don't feel like you got a car that can win this thing on pace, you got to try something else, right? I mean, maybe get off cycle of these leaders, try and find, you know, something that you can do differently than they are, where if things fall the right way, it'll put you in victory lane. So I like that call, trying to get off cycle and do something a little bit different, though. I think, and I also like the call of trying to save another set of tires. These guys only had 3 extra to work with. They've already used 1 in the pits, you know. You don't want to put yourself in a position late where if these guys come to pit road and they put 4 on it, you want to have a set in the bank to do the same thing. So I like the call to stay out on the one hand, but I feel like having the advantage of the tires and the fuel is definitely going to play to your advantage here going into these next few laps.
Absolutely, but it's going to be one of those things where I think maybe some of these drivers expecting a caution to come out here tonight. They give us 1 more pit stop before the night's over. This is going to be a tough decision, I think, for some of the field. I think I kind of like the call by Horn and Thompson to stay out, have that track position, recognizing, okay, we cannot make it from here to the end on fuel, so why not just stay out there just in case we get another caution that comes out. The only problem is you're on such different tires to the rest of the field. I mean, Danny, they're going to fall like rocks through this field. The question of how many incidents are going to happen around them, or are they going to be the incident that could bring out this potential next caution?
Well, I think the majority of cautions that you usually see on this oval style of racing after a restart is you'll see the guys with old tires starting to fall back through the field, and you know they'll just get ran over by somebody who's not prepared for the you know, the difference in pace. Or also, if this thing goes green, they're not. I'll call it now. They're not going to win this race if this thing goes green. There's going to be such a different pace on tires where, you know, Stutzman, Thompson, and Horn, they're going to fall like rocks here. And I think you'll see possibly several second deficit to them by the time they do get to pit stops. So I don't know, man. On the one hand, I do like the thought of having a set in the bank, but on the other hand, I think the tires could really be a benefit, Sam.
Can you hold on for just long enough for pit stops? Going to be the true question for our top 3. As it's Stutzman, Thompson, and Horn. Those on old tires, the rest of the field on some freshies, as we are back to green flag action here for the Shoney's 180 this evening. Horn with a great launch. He's trying to stay as far up as possible, but it's Andrew St. Cyr that's going to be the driver on the outside. Fresh rubber, going to be trying to utilize it to its fullest potential. Brandon Six going to be in 4th place, not really finding an opening. He's giving a big shove to the 71 of Thompson, and Thompson loving the push but he might be stuck in the middle. It's going to be 6 as he takes the huge run on the outside, and there is the tire difference. It's massive for Horn. He's just got nothing to hold back this 12 machine on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell the difference. Just there is so much of a difference in corner speed that it actually carries all the way down the straightaways. I mean, just one lap and he's already fallen back 2 positions to 3rd now. And you're going to see those guys continue to fall back, and Stutzman's down to 8th already. Yeah, they're going to fall like rocks here, Sam. I think they're going to want to try and maybe short pit a little bit on this last stop to try and put yourself in a spot where you can rebound a little bit better, but Stutzman continues to just go the wrong way as he got loose off the floor there, Sam.
I think he was trying to slow down to go into pit road, but just carried too much speed for the 22. He might try the next go around if possible, because he's just losing so much time for Stutzman. Up front, though, the old tires for Adam Thompson as well for Horn. They're kind of clogging up this field. They're kind of being a wall and not allowing a lot of drivers to get through. They're being a safety valve at this current moment. One on the high side, one on the inside, and it's forcing drivers through the middle. So it's just one by one. And it's doing a great job holding back this field. Is the 71 and that 98 machine.
Well, they're going to get impatient eventually. These guys are on fresh tires. They're watching the top 3 who have already worked their way through start to pull away. Top 4 rather, and they're going to want to be part of the action. I mean, we're all just looking at 4 wide off of turn 4. These guys want to go somewhere, Sam, and you've got Adam Thompson and Tyler Millette who are holding them up right now.
Luckily, they're both on the outside, so those drivers on the outside are getting frustrated. That's why Tony Martin is kind of that driver of woe. As Nicholas Atwood getting into Brandon Bowie for a quick moment, they're still going to be 3 wide behind the slower 98 machine. Staying high is Horn. Same for Thompson, but a blinking Bowie is not what you want to see while you're 3 wide, though, as Nicholas Atwood still in that position to just hold steady, as they will be 3 wide. It's going to be Tyler Martin on the outside, squeezing contact. They still scatter around, but somehow they all point in the right direction, and we stay green. It's Horn forced in the middle, but as that 98 is quickly dropping now through this field.
That should have been a wreck. By all means, that should have been a wreck. I saw that coming a mile away. Martin in the 2, he was getting a little bit impatient. Can't blame him for that, but he tried to force that move on the outside, and that's kind of what comes as a result of being stuck behind a slower car. You got to make something happen, and he tried to make something happen and kind of played to his own detriment there, but mired back in traffic now. He's got to be looking at a new way forward.
And he's stuck in the same spot again, Danny. He's now trapped 2 cars behind a slower vehicle, as now he's got Eric Anderson, who's following in the suits of Thompson on the outside. This 2 just cannot figure out a way to get the inside row. I don't know if maybe it's a comfortability thing where there's just not enough speed down there for the 2 to feel comfortable, but you have to get underneath these slower cars, and it's working as you see the conveyor belt of drivers going to the inside, 3 wide, slow car on the outer groove. That's Thompson that finally flirts with disaster, and I think that's the last of our woes for those slower cars, as up front it's still Andrew St. Cyr, fastest machine, but fastest of all drivers is Bowie that just put down that purple lap.
Yeah, Bowie's on the charge right now. I don't know what he's found in the last few laps here, but he's heading forward. I was questioning his call to come in there a little bit ago on that caution. Go ahead and put fuel in that thing one more time, but it seems to be working all right. He's up to a top 5 position now, and I think he's going to continue to climb here, Sam.
It is not a bad call at all that this 54 went with, as he's now on the outside, just using every little bit. We ride on board with Tyler Millette, who's currently in 3rd place, was able to get by Brian Dixon and hold back the 03. But how many more Bowie Esports drivers can you stop? Because this 94 is just stuck in a Bowie Esports sandwich. He's got in front of him Brandon 6. He's got Dixon behind as well as Brandon Bowie himself going to be behind this 94, as Millette stays low, trying to utilize the draft as much as possible, but you got to be careful with Dixon and Bowie. They're all going to be trying to swarm to take these spots here late.
Yeah, and what we kind of have here is a hornet's nest situation. All these guys know that it's time to go and it's time to get on the loud pedal, and you're just going to see guys start to get a little bit impatient, more of what we've seen back there with the, trying to get around the cars with older tires here, and track position is going to be very important. It's going to set up for your pit stop, and that's going to carry you on into the end. So I think you're going to see guys starting to get the itch of, okay, it's time to go, got to get all I can here. It's going to continue to grow as these laps wind down.
It certainly will continue to grow as Bowie still stays on that outside groove, able to get by Millette, able to get by Dixon, now aims to get by Six. And this is that, getting a little bit each and every race to gain on the championship battle. First, second place in points, run, second and third currently on track. It's Brandon Six, who's our championship leader currently in the point standings, but Brandon Bowie trying to go back to back. Won Richmond last week, trying to win here at Kansas to cut down on that 190 point difference of points entering tonight. It was a massive gap that we were looking at, that points difference, but luckily these every little bit finishes ahead are going to be critical later on in this season, as you see Dixon starting to fall back to who? Eric Warman. Warman, a driver that struggled during practice, now challenging for 5th place, gets by Dixon, and his 31's now in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, that's the awesome thing about these open setup races is you get to see, guys really ebb and flow as the track changes and it kind of comes to their car, and, they can just drive how they feel a little bit more comfortable as the track changes, and that's, I think, what we're seeing out of the 31. He's driven his way up into the top 5. He started all the way back in the 21st position, so he's up 16 spots since the start of the green. Compare that to our biggest mover of Brandon Bowie. I mean, he started 25th and he's up 23. So these guys have definitely made a hard charge up to the front of this pack, or at least toward the front of this pack, and I think you're going to see them continue to build on that as these laps wind in.
Talked about those that did not pit for tires or for fuel. That was Horn. That was also Jeremiah Stutzman and Adam Thompson. For Stutzman, he just took fuel only, did not take tires. 22 is in a spot where he was trying to save a set of tires for later on in this race if possible. But for Jamie Horn, he has made his stop. This is his last one. He's going to be trying to take it to the end of this race. He needs this race to stay green. The rest of the field, though, I'm curious on what their mentality is going to be set. Is it hoping and banking that this race stays green, or is it hoping and banking on a caution late to allow everyone to top off on fuel? Because they were very close at the time that we had our final pit stop to that fuel window of what we were going to see for these drivers to make it to the end.
Yeah, and I mean, something to consider, and I don't know this, but we've seen a lot of these guys not getting into 5th gear at all. They're kind of staying in 4th. They could be right in 5th. They could be thinking maybe they can save enough fuel to get to the end of this thing. I know it's a stretch, but could that be something that these guys are thinking about right now?
It's one of those thoughts of how do you save every little bit. For some, for others, it's just bank on some help if possible, as seeing some drivers that had pit cycle issues of a caution coming out during our first green flag pit stops all the way back on lap 40 and 45. And some of those drivers trying to recover if possible. 9th place battle. Here is Tony Martin, Gary Kloon, as well as Eric Anderson. All of these drivers at one moment were, for Gary Kloon, he was battling inside of our top 5 at a time. Now, just hoping for a top 10 if possible, but Eric Anderson poking the nose, not able to make that pass just yet. Another driver that's into this mix, Justin McMahon. These 4 drivers, kind of not a group that you usually see around one another. But with all the changes that have happened here tonight, with those cautions and the times that they've been, it's kind of give openings for some drivers that usually are running for the middle of the pack to be running with those top drivers.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that can sometimes lead to yellows is just there are guys that you don't see on track as much. You don't really know them and what they're going to do and what moves they're going to make. Just that lack of chemistry can oftentimes lead to an incident, and I wouldn't rule that out. Not that these guys are doing anything wrong, just kind of a lack of experience around one another, and I think we could see that leading to some potential issues.
Tyler Millette currently trying to find a way to get moving forward if possible. He's stalled out in 3rd. As Brandon Bowie, Andrew St. Corb just pulled and gapped themselves ahead. Other drivers that are having their own special runs. Daniel Wilkerson back in 14th place, but this return in top 15 isn't too bad for a machine that's just hoping for a good day to start on the right foot. When you've been away from iRacing, a day like today could be so massive of you started in the back, you got to race up front for a little bit, and now settling in your own position. If there is a caution, it could breathe the life for a chance for a couple of more spots, but not a bad day for this 28 machine.
Not at all. I think especially being away from it a little bit, just being able, like you said, to have a decent day and kind of get back in the swing of things. it's such a help. You know, you don't have to go out and set the world on fire, but just being able to kind of, you know, get back into your rhythm and start feeling right with what you're doing on track, it can definitely set yourself up to being able to have success and find wins and put yourself in victory lane.
It certainly can. And speaking about success, some of these drivers hoping for a top 5 finish if possible, as Eric Warman was trying his best to close in on the gap of our top 3, but he's now being challenged by Nicholas Atwood. If you took away Brandon Bowie's charge to the front, Nicholas Atwood would be one of the other drivers, as well as Eric Warman. That would be your next highest drivers up. Both have been moving up to 16 positions from where they qualified. Brian Dixon up 14 positions from where he qualified. And you got to give kudos to these 3 drivers, the way they've ran so far, as they've got some lap traffic ahead of them. That's going to be the 60 machine of Mike Lethwich that will stay high, forcing these drivers to go low. But this has been incredible to see the field and the way that they're reacting right now. But talking about drivers saving fuel, one of those, I'm curious if maybe he's going a little bit extreme on this fuel saving. Brandon 6, excuse me, in 9th place. That is an odd place to be for himself, but he is running off about 4 to 5 tenths off of our leader, and he's staying in that 5th gear position. And right there you saw it, clutching in, saving fuel, and doing everything in his power to have enough to the end of this race.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wondered about that, if that'd be a route that they'd go. He's doing it the right way. He's not using more fuel than he needs to. He's wrapping that bottom through the corners, clutching on entry. I mean, that's the steps you got to take to successfully save fuel. And my only concern is you don't want to save too much to the point where it actually hurt you in the long run compared to pitting. I'm not saying that's happening with him. That's just something you got to watch out for. But running that top gear, that 5th gear, I mean, it's definitely hurting him on straightaway speed, and it's bogging him down off the corners as well. So he's getting past practically like he's sitting still.
Bowie into pit road. The 54 emergency call, pit road stop for himself. He cut this stint in half, as he's going to be making his final stop of the night. So it is a decision-making move. You either are going to extreme saving or you are pitting now. And it sounds like Brian Dixon, another driver from Bowie Esports, he's going to be entering pit road to get service done. And it looks to be a potential just pit stop, 2 tires, fuel and go for most of the field.
Oh, trouble. We got one slide on pit road back there. I believe that was the 0-3 of Brian Dixon, as he had a little bit of trouble getting on the pit road. Looks like he gathered it up, but yeah, to your point, Sam, I mean, this is where you make your bed and you got to lay in it. Do you want to try and risk it and try and stretch it on fuel, or do you take the safer call of coming to pit road and just go ahead and putting tires on it and putting fuel in the tank? I mean, definitely the safer call is to pit, but I feel like the race-winning call might just be to stay out and stretch this thing to the end.
Looking at some of the drivers that have pitted so far and where they run now compared to those that stayed out, such as Jamie Horn. Where is he running currently? Horn is back in 20th place. Brandon Bowie, again, took 2 tires and fuel, trying to save a little bit more in this run than others, is running in 13th place. Both 1 lap down, but Horn, the biggest loser, I would say, of staying out. So those drivers that went with the risky call of track position over fuel and tires on our last caution are not being rewarded as this race stays green.
Yeah, and that's what I really worried about, seeing happen to those guys. I don't blame them for trying something, because, you know, if you've had a rough night, what have you really got to lose? You know, you're not. There comes a point where you're like, okay, I'm probably not the fastest guy here tonight, at least, and I need to try something to put myself in a good spot. Why not throw something at it and try and make it work? If nothing else, they've learned for next time, you know, maybe play things a little bit different. So I don't hate that call for them, but unfortunately, relevant to the conversation, we see the 22 of, let's see, I believe that Stutzman there. It looks like he's under fire from the 94, about to go a lap down, and that, you know, comes from that call that he made.
Caution,
we have a caution now.
Caution is out, and it's the 9 of Steven Bonomo. Issues at a turn number 4, trying to make his way into pit road, almost identical to Andy Cork earlier, and caution flag is out. The 9 resets the field with 20 laps to go.
Well, Sam, there's an old adage in racing: this changes everything, is what they say, and this has certainly changed the dynamic of this race, and I have no idea what's going to happen from here.
I mean, some of these drivers have already used their final set of tires. Others have extra set sitting in pit road. You're assuming everyone that's still in the lead lap are going to go into pit road and get service done for themselves. So waiver rounds are going to be given around to a majority of the field. I believe Mike Leftwich will be given the lucky dog position, while Brandon Bowie, St. Cour, they're all going to be taking the waiver round for this next launch. But I mean, you saw it there on the replay, just a simple trying to get onto the apron to slow down to go into pit road, and just loops it around. Goes Steven Bonomo. As the field makes the decision to go into pit road to get service done, would anyone stay out to trap drivers a lap down? Would be my true question. The one driver I think that could have done that decision was Brandon Six. He will not. So everyone expected to hit pit road and get service done. Lucky dog given to Mike Leftwich. And it's going to be a chase to the end. It's a last dash with about 15 to go. And for us, we will take our one and only commercial break of the evening. When we come back, it's time for the fireworks to start, as we will be back with more racing action for the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series for your Shoney's 180 here at Kansas. We will be back right after this with more racing action. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting. We are giving you the coverage of the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series, Season 2 of 2024, Race 9 of 14, as you are watching the Shoney's 180 here at Kansas Speedway. My name is Sam Dyer. Joining me up in the booth as a special guest commentator. Zach Paul had to take tonight off. We've got Danny Cochran with us, as well as running productions in the background is Robert Moyer Jr. We just had a late caution brought out by Steve Manomo with 20 laps to go, and we've got ourselves 9 drivers on the freshest set of tires. The rest had to take the wave around to get themselves back on the lead lap, but they're on so much old tires, 5 to up to 16 lap older tires than the rest of the field. And we've got ourselves a 15-lap shootout. 120 laps have gotten us, is the total for this evening's race. We do have overtime if it's needed, but for Tyler Millette, he's hoping for a great charge. Making a late pit stop, going to be starting all the way back in 7th position is Brandon Six. Jeremiah Stutzman going to be starting in 5th place. Both Gonna be quick drivers to watch out for on this restart. Pace car pulls up. It's time for a 15-lap dash here for the Shoney's 180 at Kansas into the restart zone. It's the 94 of Millette. Warman on the inside as we are green once again. And Danny, like I said right before we went to commercial break, it's time for the fireworks to launch here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, this caution has changed the dynamic of this race tremendously. Honestly, it's killed the momentum of the 12th car of Andrew St. Clair, who's now back in the, he's outside of the top 10 in the 12th position now. So he was looking poised to be in a great spot for this race, and now he's outside the top 10. Curious to see how he rebounds from where he was. And who this has honestly helped, I believe, is the 31 of Eric Warman. He's sitting in the second spot now. He's had great speed for the second half of this race. I think he could have something for the 94, who's, you know, found himself leading this thing with less than 20 to go. So I'm really curious to see how this turns out, as we've got Jonathan Smith to the inside of Eric Warman. He's looking to take away that second position now as they go into turn 3.
Big one driver in the mix of all this. You might be thinking, well, isn't he a threat to win it? It's Jamie Horn deciding not to take the wave around. It goes with the call of taking his tires here and is trying to unlap himself the hard way, and then hopes to get himself a caution to get back into the fight if possible. The 98 needs to get up front quickly as he'll stay high. We right on board with Brandon 6. Jeremiah Stutzman with a huge launch on the inside, thinking about going 3 wide. They don't. For a quick moment, thought we were going to see that big dash. Also going to be seeing Brandon Bowie in the mix here. All drivers saying it's go time, as we've got 13 coming up to 12 laps to go, but they are being stuffed for 6. Stuffed for Stutzman as a hard contact for the 06 on the outside, but it is a wall. It is Horn and Simon that's not allowing these faster drivers to get through. Brandon 6 going to be forcing the issue to the outside. Bowie's going to be following as well on the outside as well. A little bit of a slide from Simon, and here we go, Danny. Finally the opening for 6 and for Bowie.
Yeah, I mean, these guys know that it's go time. You got to do something here, as we've got 6 and Bowie working their way around that outside, trying to keep that momentum up as they're closing in now in the top 3. I think, you know, it's, I'm curious to see how this plays out, because these guys are charging toward that front right now.
Also charging, trying to carry on to catch up to them. Going to be the 12 machine of Andrew St. Clair. Like you said, started outside of the top 10. Was in 12th position on that restart. Was on similar fresh tires. Again, when he went into pit road, it was immediately after you entered pit road, the caution came out. So he is on similar fresh tires. Not a lot of green flag runs under this set. He's trying to catch up to our leaders, but he's got a lot of work to do so as he's back in that 12th place position. Up front, though, the challenge for 3rd place, it is Brandon 6, Eric Warman, and 6 has found the space. He's got fresh air. He just set the fastest lap. The numbers are reeling for Brandon 6 and the 06 to get back up front, but 2 drivers still settle in front of him. It's going to be Jonathan Smith as well as Tyler Millette, and with 10 laps to go, Danny, I mean, if I was one of these to lead drivers, you'd think you're trying every way to aero block this 06 machine.
And that's what you have to do. I mean, if I'm the 94 or the 23, I'm running the top here, not letting them get that advantage of keeping the momentum up as they both go to the bottom in turn 1 and 2. But if it's me, I want to run the top. I want to try and keep them behind me best I can. Make it more difficult for them. Make them pass on the bottom, as now the 06 is going to look to the inside going into turn 3. And we see the 23 and the 94, they do make that jump up to the outside, which is, I think, is what they need to do, as it gets tight. It gets real tight off of turn 4 for that 3rd position.
Big squeeze, had to back out with Brandon 6, and now allows Bowie to get round the back bumper, but Bowie is blinking. That is a scare. If there is a mistake with trying to give a big bump while the 54 is blinking, it could cause either driver to spin out. So for the Bowie Esports drivers, they have to be careful on the outside group, but this is exactly what you need. Cause a wall, box in the 06 as Jonathan Smith stays low, Millette stays high, and it's the Bowie Esports teammate of Brandon Bowie that's holding back. Brandon 6 is almost contact again. Now on the front stretch between Smith and 6, and Brandon 6 has the nose ahead, perfectly what he needs with 7 laps to go here tonight. Tyler Millette trying to get into victory lane, but he's got a head full of steam of drivers behind him as they are looking for every space possible to take these positions away.
Well, if you're Millette, you love seeing what he saw in his rearview mirror right there, and that's Brandon 6 and Jonathan Smith being side by side for so long. I mean, I don't know if it's going to make a difference in the grand scheme of things. That 06 is probably going to at least get up to that back bumper of the 94. But, you know, just having them bide that time for you a little bit, it definitely makes a big difference. Now the 23 Jonathan Smith. He's holding back the 54 of Brandon Bowie a little bit, just trying to, be a pestilence. Make yourself tough to pass. Don't roll over and give him this thing, as now the 31 of Eric Warman is actually looking to the inside of Brandon Bowie for that 4th position.
Looking for a chance to get into victory lane is going to be Tyler Millette in this 94 machine. He's had so many chances to get into victory lane. Could tonight be a historic one for this driver that is irking for a win? He's had plenty of chances. He's finished 3rd over 5 times, and now leads coming up to 4 laps to go when he crosses the line again. But he's got the heaviest hitter of this season, the rookie that came in with dominance, Brandon Six. He's has 4 wins settling behind, but with 2/10 being the gap of the difference, it is within reaching. But 4 laps to go, Danny, and it's still Tyler Millette leading the way. As it's going to be seen, Brandon Bowie behind these drivers, searching for pace on the inside. There's one driver, a note, that's not in this mix. That's going to be the 12 of Andrew St. Cyr. He has tried his heart out to close in the gap. He's now stuck back in 7th place. He's worked as hard as he could. There's just no more gap or differences. It is down to these top drivers. It's the 94 Millette. It's Six in 2nd and Smith in 3rd. As Bowie will try a different lane as we ride on board with the 12. It's a heartbreaking feeling when you've had such a dominant run, but the timing of the cautions, the timing of when you went into pit road just didn't line up for a chance to win. Instead, you've got to watch your competitors, you got to watch your competition, eke out a chance here this evening. 3 laps to go. Six almost dumps it into the wall. Now 2 laps to go as Jonathan Smith gets to the inside for 2nd place.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely helped the 23 a ton there. He was able to watch Brandon Six make that move. Didn't quite pan out. I feel like that might have been his only shot at it. They're getting real close off of turn 2. They're in the wall. They want this 2nd position awful bad, but coming down the back straightaway, they're going to be side by side. And that's exactly what that 94 of Tyler Millette, that's what he wants to see coming to this white flag, Sam.
Millette's got to be careful, though. It's Six into the wall again off the exit of turn 4, holding back Smith. And Tyler Millette, white flag in hand, the 94. There is no one even close. They're 3 wide for 2nd, and Millette's first career win in the Doghouse Cup Series is looking all for him, as now Warman gets by as well. Six is in trouble.
Yeah, down the back straightaway into turn 3. Here comes the 94 of Tyler Millette. He has no pressure from behind. This is all him. All he's got to do is bring it off of turn 4, Sam. Here he comes, and he's going to get the win tonight here in the Shoney Doghouse Racing Series. Tyler Millette goes to victory lane.
Tyler Millette, 47 tries, 47 times he has not gotten to victory lane. The 48th, he has finally done so, as Tyler Millette will enjoy this one. The 94 is heading to victory lane. Eric Warman as well with a fabulous finish into 2nd. Bowie will move up to 3rd. And for Brandon Six, it just was not the night he was hoping for. As we will come to the end of tonight's race, all the congratulational bumps are going to be given out to this 94 team, because this one was a team effort from Smith, from Stutzman, and from Horn. They did all the work to help Tyler Millette finally hoist a win here in the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series. Tyler, enjoy this one. For us, we will step away. When we come back, we'll be talking to this 94 team as well, to Eric Warman, Brandon Bowie, and we'll be back right after this for the post-race show. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series, our post-race show for the Shoney's 180 here at Kansas Speedway. And we got to see a barn burner there late, as it was a 15-lap shootout. Some drivers faded to the back, others got the unfortunate timing of that yellow that forced them to be out of a racing run. But at the end of the day, it was between two drivers. It was Brandon Six, or it was going to be Tyler Millette. And after all the bumping and bruising and drivers having the back and forth, ultimately it went to the 94 of Tyler Millette. Tyler, you are a winner in the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series. Man, how are you feeling after that incredible run at the end?
Oh man, listen, my heart's in my throat, my hands are sweaty, I'm shaking. It feels like it's been a long time coming, but we were finally there tonight.
Yeah, man, that was an awesome run that you had there. They were 2-3 wide behind you. They were battling really hard there in those last few laps. I'm sure that felt good seeing that in your mirror. At what point were you feeling comfortable thinking, all right, I think I've got this thing wrapped up here?
I knew with 10 to go, we were good on fuel. Tire wear felt great, so I knew right then all I had to do was kind of hit my marks, keep them behind me, tried to watch my mirror, chop the draft if I had to, and just try to keep them battling to keep them from getting to me. And fortunately, that's how it played out tonight.
I mean, Tyler, you've had a long career here with the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series, fighting to get this win for yourself. What is it like seeing the competition and now finally getting the win this season with how high the competition has been this season?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's since this season started, like we've had a bunch of influx of new drivers just raise the level of competition. Like it's been unreal. It's made me faster, and it's made me an all-around better driver. And I couldn't have done it without them pushing me the way they were tonight.
Well, Tyler, it was an honor to get to call this win for you. And before we send you off, the floor is now yours for any other shout outs.
Yeah, I'd like to shout you all out for the broadcast because they're always great to watch. Shout out to mom and dad, my teammates, Daniel, Jamie, all them guys, Steven, Justin. Couldn't do it without these. Shout out to my fiance for cheering me on. She watches every one of these and gets just as tore up as I do. And then shout out to all the drivers and Shoney's for making this happen. Like we couldn't do this without y'all.
Well, that will be your winner here tonight. Race number 9, your Shoney's 180 victor for the 94 machine of Tyler Millette. Tyler, enjoy this one, and good luck next week for more racing action.
Thank y'all.
As we move from victory lane, we go to second place for a driver that we knew was making a great run late. We didn't know if second place was on the docket, but it goes to Eric Warman. Eric, you were running in 5th. Next thing we know, you're making the big move for second. How are you feeling after that late charge to find yourself in second at the end?
Oh, it's feeling like a win to me, to be honest. Didn't think we had anything but maybe 5th and best, and then just Lord kind of parted the seas for us, took it 3 wide there going into 1 last lap, and made her work.
Yeah, Eric, that was a phenomenal run for you there. You obviously had a fantastic run. You picked up 19 spots over the span of that race there. What's one thing that you done that you really felt like gained you the most positions tonight, put you in that 3rd place position after the checkered flag?
I worked with Michael earlier this week on some of the stuff that I've been needing to work on, and he kind of pointed out some of the stuff that I was making mistakes on, and I took it into this race to try it, and well, it worked out great. And just going to keep on working on that.
It certainly did work out, Eric. I mean, we look at the points. You're one of those drivers that a couple of more of these runs, you're more and more into this championship about. And I mean, how are you feeling for these upcoming races? I know our next one's going to be at Rollville next week, and then we'll be at Talladega and Las Vegas being our next 3 on the list. Any of those races you're feeling like, all right, we've got a chance maybe to get into victory lane?
Honestly, sounds like the next 2 are pretty much just survival races for me. Try not to go off the track on a road course. And Vegas, it's a hit and miss. So we'll work on it and try to get ready for it.
Well, we cannot wait to see how you perform, Eric, at these upcoming races. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any other shout-outs.
Yeah, I want to thank the Lord Jesus for this 2nd place. If it wasn't for him, it wouldn't have been here, that's for sure. I want to thank my wife, our kids. I want to thank the league, all the sponsors, Shoney's, Group 6, Patriot Apparel, and want to thank you guys for putting on the broadcast. Appreciate it a whole lot.
Well, thank you for giving us such a great show to call. That will be your second place runner here tonight in the 31 machine of Eric Warman. Eric, enjoy this one. Congratulations on a second place finish, and good luck next week at the Roval.
Yeah, thank you. You guys have a good one.
You too. As we move from second place, we go down to third, and this one's going to be a little bit more of a special interview, as taking a top 3 finish is great and all, but we also have to say, apologize, Brandon. Congratulations on third. Sorry we couldn't call your race win last week. Congratulations on the Richmond win. How are you feeling coming away with taking a third place finish here tonight?
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, it was a little sad that I couldn't finally come up here and talk to you guys about my win in this league. But yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, so this man, I just got to get a clean race. I last week wasn't clean, and I don't think I've had a clean race yet. So I got to figure out what I need to do. I got to clean that up. I don't want to be running into people or causing situations or anything like that. So, but yeah, third place is good for us. We'll keep chipping at Mr. Brandon Six. He has quite a bit of a point lead on the rest of us. So kind of just slowly but surely trying to chip at it. The top 3 will definitely help. It was a lot of hard racing out there tonight. But Kansas is always fun. You can run the bottom, the middle, the high side. I had to go back and definitely listen to how it was called for the for the for the last 10 laps from that caution, because that was a little hectic for sure.
Yeah, I definitely looked at, man. You definitely made the most of what you were given there. I know at one point you pitted under green. You were kind of on the back foot going forward. I mean, you got all the way back up to third, and that's a great run, man. But do you feel like there's anything you could have done different to maybe secure that top spot, when that checkered flag fell?
I mean, honestly, there's a couple of things I could have done possibly, but then that would have been probably putting all of us at jeopardy of wrecking. So, a lot of times I try to look at the big picture, and yes, I can do 3 wide and stuff like that, but with these cars, it's so hard to pass, and it only takes one car kind of staying in front of you and kind of taking that air off your front end, and then it's too tight, can't really do anything. So, I mean, besides like driving it in 10 car lengths deep, or as Kurt Busch was saying, "Till you see Jesus," doing something like that, and then kind of getting beside him, slowing him down, probably would have been my only chance. But in my opinion, it's not worth it. These guys, race me clean, so I don't want to do anything like that and jeopardize anybody's, first win or good top 5, top 10 finish. So,
For sure.
yes, to answer your question, but I'm trying to look at the big picture.
I mean, coming up in these upcoming races, Brandon, and we got ourselves the Roval, Talladega, Las Vegas. Again, very different dynamic tracks that we're heading towards. But what's the confidence scale heading to the Roval and then heading back to Super Speedway Racing, where we're seeing success for your team?
Yeah, so the Roval, as much as I don't like that track, I'm trying to turn a new leaf and be positive about the tracks we go to. So I am pretty excited to go there. I have not ran there in probably a year and a half to 2 years, maybe. So it's been quite a while since I've been there in a cup car. So it'll be interesting to see how we kind of shake up with everybody. Super Speedway is honestly it's a super speedway. I mean, anybody can win it. But I'm pretty sure on the broadcast that's what makes it exciting, right? You allow for people that maybe don't have a shot on some of the cookie cutter tracks or short tracks or road courses, and it gives them a shot on the super speedway. So, and there's a lot of teams in here, so I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of teamwork going on and a lot of strategy going on, and that's exactly what I'm kind of looking forward to for that is which strategy is going to play off and which strategy is going to actually work for that track.
I know we're excited for it as well. Brandon, again, congratulations on a third place finish here tonight. And also congratulations on your win last week. It was saddened that we weren't able to give you that call of that race. But before we let you go here tonight, the floor is now yours for any other shout outs.
Thanks. I want to give a shout out, of course, to you guys, for I know you guys haven't had the best of luck the last couple of races with your stream, but you're back now, so it's great to, of course, have you guys back. Gotta thank Gremlins Cards. You can check them out at tinyurl.com/Gremlins Cards. You can use the promo code Bowie Esports 20 for 20% off. I gotta thank Boosted, my team, and Battle Beaver, the league, of course, for having us. And yeah, I guess congratulations to Tyler on getting a win in it.
Well, that'll be your third place finisher here tonight. Going to be Brandon Bowie. Congratulations on a top 3 finish. Enjoy it, and good luck next week at the Roval.
Thanks, Sam.
As we finish up our interviews here tonight, we get ready to take a look at our unofficial results this evening. A lot of ups and downs and cautions at unfortunate timings for some that really changed up the dynamic for who we thought were going to be the favorites in those first 30 laps or so. It really looked like it was going to be an Andrew St. Cyr and Jamie Horn dynamic duo of who was going to take the win. Well, they're not even on the list currently when you look through the board of where you would think they would fall. Instead, it's Tyler Millette taking his first Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series win for the 94. He'll enjoy this one with Eric Warman in second place. Brandon Bowie will take third. Brandon Six, who also looked like a favorite to win, will fall down to fourth place. He'll take a top 5 just behind his competitor that's trying to close in that championship gap. Jonathan Smith takes a top 5 run. That is a fabulous finish for the 23, with the 27 of Christopher Simon 6th. 7th is where we find the driver who took the pole, led majority of the laps, and it's Andrew St. Cyr in that 7th place position. His teammate from Twisted Axle is going to be Nicholas Atwood in 8th place. Jeremiah Stutzman really fell off there late, but he had a hard charging moments that were a blast to watch. The 22 will take 9th, and finishing out our top 10, it's the 2 of Tony Martin who needed a good finish. He'll take that one for himself.
Yeah, outside the top 10 there, man, you see guys like Adam Thompson and Jamie Horn who had a really good shot early in the going, but I feel like they kind of shot themselves in the foot with that strategy that they played there whenever we had that second caution come out. So you really got to feel for guys like that, as well as, down there you've also got the 8 of Christopher Leftwich, who showed promise tonight and had some good speed, but just, like I said, poor guy hit everything but the lottery whenever he went around. So really got to feel for guys like that coming out of this show, Sam.
As well as Andy Quirk having some unfortunate moments, but 27 drivers took the green, and it's a first-time winner that will take the victory. It's Tyler Millette in the 94. Well, for us here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting, we got plenty of other great racing coverage to give you throughout the week, as we will be back next week for the Roval, as we also will be giving you coverage on Monday nights for the ISRC Truck Series. We're back for more racing action, as the Truck Series has been giving us such incredible action that you do not want to miss at all during this season, as well as we will not be covering on Tuesday nights. The Challenger Racing League has concluded, and sadly we will not be returning to give you that Tuesday night coverage. Wednesday, WSSR, their season is ongoing, as they've got their 3rd race of the season next Wednesday, and then we're right back here for the Roval of the Shoney's Doghouse Cup Series. 3 races, and it's been a great time calling it all. And Danny, it's been a pleasure to have you with us up in the booth. Any final thoughts before we call it an evening here on Thursday night?
Yeah, I just happy to be here with you guys, man. Had a blast calling this race. Had a blast calling that, watching those last few laps play out there. Congratulations to Tyler Millette on his first career win here at the Doghouse Racing League, and excited to see what the future for this series holds.
Cannot wait to see how the rest of the season will unfold. 5 more races are left on the docket, and it's going to be a 5-race battle. Will it be Bowie? Will it be Six? Or could it be someone else trying to steal the show late? You have to watch out here Thursday nights on the Freaky Fast Broadcasting. But if you want to watch other great racing coverage, we've got you covered again to Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But for us here this evening, I want to say thank you for joining with us on your Thursday night for the Shoney's 180 at Kansas. For myself, Sam Dyer, for special guest commentator Danny Cochran, as well as our producer Robert Moyer Jr. and everyone else from Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Thank you for joining with us. Cannot believe the season is slowly coming to an end. Just 5 more races left. Who will take the crown? We'll have to find out and see. But for us, we will see you next week for the Roval for race number 10 of the season. If you can't wait until then, don't worry. We got you covered Monday night. Who will move on to the next? Who will move on with another great round of the playoffs? You're going to have to wait and see as the chase for the ISRC continues. Monday night will be our next Freaky Fast broadcast.